Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blocktalk podcast with me, Brian Welsh, and Jax Bruce. Jax, how are you today?
Very well, Brian. Thanks. Back in the office after a nice away day last Friday with all the team, which was good fun. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. It was great fun, wasn't it? It's always good to get both of our teams together from the different offices. So yeah, it was good. Thank you. Okay, so today we have our final full podcast of 2022, and we're delighted to be joined by a special guest, Kyle Murtagh, who we heard speak at the PMAS conference back in October. Kyle is a presentation skills speaker. In 2020, Kyle created and published a book, The 5 Pillars of Effective Public Speaking, which I have to say, I'm looking forward to reading, and it also received outstanding reviews. In 2021, he went on to become the European champion of public speaking and competed in the world finals. I didn't even know there was such a thing, so I'm looking forward to find out about that. Today, we're going to chat to Kyle about how his skills translate to the office, working with the public, and dealing with challenging and difficult conversations. Kyle, thank you very much for coming on. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's great to be here with you both. I have to say, though, I'm gutted I wasn't invited to the away day, but hey, another time in the future, right?
Yes, of course, definitely. Okay, so for anyone listening that didn't hear you speak at the PMAS conference, tell us a bit more about you and the zombie apocalypse story.
Okay, basically, this is how I got started in public speaking. To give you some context, I was working for WWF at the time, not the wrestling, the wildlife charity.
Yes.
I should probably state there. And basically, I was one of those annoying people on the street who was trying to stop you and get you to adopt a panda or a jaguar or a koala or something like this, trying to take your money in the street for the name of charity, essentially. And I was awful at it. I really was. Like, I could not get people to stop and listen to me no matter what I did. And I remember going into a co-op one day to get my meal deal for my lunch. And on the notice board there was a poster advertising a place where you could go along and practice public speaking. So I thought, well, I need some of that. I'm terrible at this public speaking stuff. So I went along and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just going to sit back and watch these people do their thing. But that's not how it went. They got me immediately involved, kicking and screaming. Basically, the way it worked at this place was that you'd be asked a question out of the blue. And basically what you had to do was answer that question in the form of a 2-minute unprepared speech. So
wow.
Terrifying. Yeah. And my first ever question was, Kyle, if a zombie apocalypse happened in Glasgow, where would you go, big man? Oh my Jesus Christ, what the heck is this? But I find myself up there, all these people, they're staring at me, and after what felt like years, I say 2 words. The pub. And then I sit back down. So that was my first ever introduction to public speaking. The pub. And that's how it got started. And honestly, to be honest with you, Brian, when I sat back down, I felt pretty ashamed. Because I'd let the pressure, the fear of speaking get to me so much that I had crumbled publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone has crumbled in public before, they'll know that you never, ever want to feel that again.
Yeah.
And that was the point for me where I made a decision to start investing in my speaking, to start trying to improve at this craft. And I started reading books on it, watching great speakers, going back to that place, practicing more of those impromptu speeches. And slowly I was able to let go of that fear and really enjoy my speaking. And that's when things began to take off for me. So yeah, the zombie apocalypse will always be close to my heart. That's my starting point.
That is not a surprise. That is not a surprise. And coming from somebody who has entirely bombed in public speaking, yes, I do understand that, what you're talking about. Okay, so your business is called Confidence by Design.
Yeah.
How or when did you realize that public speaking was mostly about confidence? Is that right to say that?
I would say it's not necessarily mostly about confidence. Like, confidence is the result of public speaking, I think.
Okay.
Basically, as I was going through this journey of practicing in this place and learning all these new skills, I began to realize that this isn't just helping with my public speaking. I'm not just becoming better when I speak to an audience. I'm becoming better anytime I speak. like in interviews, in that job with WWF, on dates, whatever it was, my confidence in my communication improved. And that's why I called my business Confidence by Design, because yes, I'm teaching public speaking, but the skill of public speaking filters down into all other areas of speaking. So ultimately, I think I'm helping my clients find their confidence when they speak in all occasions, and hence the name Confidence by Design.
Okay, that's really interesting, actually. I mean, we've had a chat off air about my fear and hatred of public speaking. So yeah, no, that does make sense. So thinking about that, how do you take somebody who has an absolute fear of public speaking, as I do, to being a confident presenter?
Yeah, well, I'm a great believer that confidence comes from competence. Okay. So actually teaching someone the skills, and this is stuff that we're never taught in school, university, very rarely in the workplace either. Like actually learning how to use your body language effectively, how to use your voice so you hold attention, how to structure your presentation. All of these fundamentals actually give you a good solid foundation to grow as a speaker. So I'm a great believer in equipping people with those skills and in giving them an opportunity to practice. Right? You can't just learn about it. You've got to actually do it. And that's the hard bit, because the first time you do it, like my first occasion, it's awful usually. It's like a baptism of fire. But once you go again and try another time, you get a little bit better. And then the next time you're a little bit better. And again, you're a little bit better. And you slowly begin to improve. So it's that combination, Brian, of, learning the skills, but then practicing them, receiving the feedback, and just slowly trying to get 1% better each time. I think people get frustrated because it's not like that, right? It's not instantly, I'll make your fear go away and here you are, speak with confidence in front of 1,000 people. No, it's a long journey. But if you do go on the journey, this is a skill that will serve you for a lifetime. It really will. So I think it's a journey worth taking.
Okay, so I spoke last week at our company away day in front of, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 people, something like that. That does not challenge me in any way, shape, or form. I actually quite enjoy it. I like the sound of my own voice. As many people have said to me, no, that's not necessarily me. So is it just a case of building up the numbers of people you speak to? Because, 15 is fine. 50 would scare the living crap out of me.
Yeah, I think it's all about how you label it in your head. So on that team day, for example, you probably viewed that as, oh, I'm talking to my team. I'm chatting to my team. And maybe it wasn't, I'm doing a formal presentation to my team. Just changing how you see it makes a big difference. I was speaking to a video expert yesterday, and he has a huge problem with getting clients to take videos, because as soon as you put a phone in someone's face, they're like, I can't do that, right? So what he says is, we're not going to do videos today. We're just going to have a chat. And so he has a chat with people, and he just so happens to film them as they're doing so. And what happens by the end? Well, you have videos. So often just reframing how you see it makes a big difference. And I would imagine, Brian, that for that situation with your team, I'm speaking to my team. And then for the 50 people, I'm doing a presentation. And the word presentation has other connotations, which might make you seize up a little bit and hurt your mindset going into the situation. Does that make sense?
It does, actually. And actually, there's another point there, actually, because I did a couple of videos on last Thursday, I think it was, for LinkedIn. Okay. And I do them, kind of weekly or 2 weekly for, and one of the things I decided to do this time was I decided to do it in an interview style where I was not looking at the camera. I was looking at another person.
Yeah, so sort of like a side on view like that.
Yeah. So, and that was, it was just a chat. Like, this is a chat. Yeah. But then the guy doing the video said, we're coming into the new year. Why don't you do a piece to camera to say, this is the LinkedIn stuff I'm going to be doing this year? Oh my goodness. An hour later, we were still trying to record the damn thing, So it is definitely a mindset thing.
Yeah, for sure. And even what we're doing right now, all three of us, we're speaking to camera, right? We are actually talking to a camera, but it feels like we're talking to each other because we are, right? But if we just take you away and I look at my camera, it creates a different feeling in my head. So you've almost got to see the camera as a person in this situation. That's how you do with video. And when it comes to presentations, instead of seeing it as a presentation, see it as a conversation with the audience, right? So it's just reframing it, which makes a difference going in.
Okay, and I have to mention this, that we had 3 attempts to start because it was on video. I've never had 3 attempts to start a podcast before, but never mind. But nobody will see that. Nobody will see that. Okay, cool. Okay, so we've had discussions about how the property factoring sector can be challenging at times, and a lot of this potentially around dealing with angry and upset customers. Navigating difficult conversations, being able to deal with how that affects people working in the industry. Can your training help with that?
Yes, because I do stuff around how to deal with difficult audiences, how to handle the demanding. That's how I like to put it. And I think a big part of that is, going in. If you're going into a situation where there are going to be complaints, where there's going to be people antagonizing you, prepare for that in advance, right? What are some of the things that they could come up with? Okay, maybe I write down 5 different complaints they may have. What are going to be my 5 different answers then to those complaints? Preparing that in advance can help. And then also knowing how to deal with the difficult questions that come your way. Having a response, a structure in mind for your response can help tremendously. So any form of public speaking around, whether it be handling the demanding or dealing with a friendly audience or any audience, I'm well into that and fascinated by it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Actually, a couple of things. So I watched your video on dealing with a bulldozer in the office, which I found fascinating. And actually, I've just been literally this morning been to pick up my other half's new car, right? And this car is 15 months late, okay, because of various issues. And the guy I was chatting to, the guy who sold me the car, he said that I think we waited pretty much the longest. There was just problem after problem after problem. And then back in June, the company we were getting it from, or the car manufacturer, changed all its models. So actually, we couldn't even get the car we'd ordered. So we waited about 40 months, which I think about the longest. And he said to me this morning that he actually had to get someone else to phone me because he was utterly dreading making that phone call to me. But I was quite pragmatic about it because I'm like, at the end of the day, now don't get me wrong, I probably have a reasonable temper and get annoyed about stuff, but there's nothing the guy could do about it. He didn't have to really decide that I was not getting that car and he was going to give it to someone else. But it's that fear. He said he had to have like 10 conversations with 10 customers. 9 people screamed down the phone at him, and the one person he expected to, or actually possibly even had a right to do it, didn't do it. But I mean, your training would have helped that situation as well, I'm guessing.
Well, it sounds like he built the scenario up on his head, and of course he had those past 9 experiences. So when he came to you, the 10th customer, he was like, "Oh my god, I can't take this anymore. This is going to be the worst one. This is going to end me," right? So it sounds like that situation occurred there, and perhaps preparing how to deal with customers who are facing delays is something that would have helped there. But I think there's a good point we can also transfer into, AGMs or meetings like that for property factor managers. Yeah. Even if you do prepare for the worst case scenario, right? So you say you think it's going to be chaos when you get in there, and you prepare in advance and you have all of your responses and all of that. If you do go in there and it's not chaos and it's actually quite pleasant, or it's, they're not as annoyed as you think, isn't it better to have that sort of prepared in advance, the worst case scenario, and it's actually easier on the day as a result for you? It takes the pressure off when you get in there. So I always say it's always better to prepare for the worst case scenario, and then if that doesn't show up, well, then you've got an easy day in front of you. I think it helps.
But if you're not prepared, it's going to be a lot worse. Yeah,
exactly. And that the moment you don't prepare for the worst, that's when the worst shows up, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, fair point. That's a good way to think about it. So we spoke about your book at the beginning, which I'm looking forward to reading, actually. Tell us about your book and how it relates to property factoring.
Well, in terms of property factoring, the 5 pillars of effective public speaking is, let me use a property term, it's creating a foundation, a solid place to build upon. And basically, these are the 5 fundamental skills that you'll see in all great speakers, whether it's Obama or Oprah Winfrey or anyone in the spotlight. You will see these fundamental skills in their speaking. I'll tell you what they are. They are, firstly, body language, your nonverbal communication. Second, voice, how you hold people's attention. Third, structure, how you put together your presentation. Fourth, clarity, how clear your message is. And fifth, impact. And I define impact as leaving a lasting impression that inspires action. Because ultimately, why are we speaking unless people do something afterwards, right? We want to create change of some kind. So that's what the 5 pillars goes through. And from a property factor point of view, those 5 skills will help you in your AGM meetings or when you're dealing with clients face to face, because ultimately you're covering key information in those meetings. You need to hold their attention, right? You need your information to be clear. And often it's not just you taking action after. You need the members of the property, of the complex, to do something after too. So that's where the impact piece comes in.
Okay, that's really interesting, the non-verbal part, because all the way through this, you've been very kind of vocal with your hands, shall we say, and I've been kind of I'm standing, but I've been standing here leaning on my desk. So I think I have a lot to learn, to be fair. But
well, when it comes to gesturing is great because it backs up your verbal message. And so many people are visual learners. So if I can gesture and it supports what I'm saying, I'm aiding their learning. But the other factor in this is if I don't gesture and I just become a talking head like this is especially for online, the presentation becomes more boring. It's duller for you to watch me right now. It's less engaging because I'm just a talking head. But if I do gesture, there's a bit more movement, and movement keeps the brain active and stops it from falling into a pattern and switching off ultimately. So that's why I'm very animated. And it's just my style as well. I'm not saying everyone should do this, but it is my style. I think I'm half Italian, Brian.
Right, okay. Actually, to be fair, when I do stand up or when I do in meetings, I am very animated with my hands. But I guess there's a camera here, so I'm like, speak to the camera.
Well, I can see the gestures coming through. I think possibly just the camera's not capturing them because they're below the screen potentially. And so positioning online is really important as well. So enough of you is captured in the little square box.
Sure. Okay, cool. Okay, that's really interesting. Right. So, and finally, we have a new question because Blocktalk's been going for just over a year now. We have a different ending question now. Tell us something about you that people are generally surprised to find out about you.
Generally surprised to find out. I used to be incredibly shy. So when I was a kid, people would often say, Kyle, can you even speak? Like it was that bad. I was so quiet in class. I was so quiet in my football teams. I just didn't have the confidence to express myself at all. And I think this is partially why public speaking is so important for me, because it really helped me find my voice and come out of my shell more. You know, and it's a long journey. And I've been working on myself, been involved in self-development for about 10 years. But that's where I began. I began as a very introverted, low self-esteem person who I never really saw myself as being this individual who would be able to be outspoken and express themselves. So that I think everybody has a starting point, and people think that everyone who's good at public speaking are naturally extroverted, and that's just not the case. In fact, actually, I would argue introverts are better public speakers because an introvert is more in tune with their audience in many cases. Like they are more empathetic. They're more thinking about their audience. I'm generalizing here, but extroverts tend to think more about themselves and being the center of attention. And that's not what public speaking is about. It's not about making you look good. It's about helping the audience as much as you can. Giving them value. Exactly. So the introverted perspective can be very valuable. But of course, you need the extroverted traits to hold the attention. So it's a balancing act. Okay. Perfect. Right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. That's been absolutely brilliant, Cal. Thank you for your time. My pleasure. It's been an honor, Brian. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thanks.